In this video, we will see how to place an architectural column to encase a structural column within a partition wall, and to extend the finishes of a complex wall type around a structural column. We will also see how to use an architectural column to create pillars in a masonry wall. In Revit, an architectural column will inherit the layers and finishes of the wall it is joined to. They are used to box out around a structural column that's built into a wall, or to create pillars in masonry walls where needed. The architectural column can also be used as the decorative encasing to a standalone structural column. I have the exercise file, Architectural Columns, open, and if I zoom into the column at the top right corner of the plan here, we can see we have a concrete column which is built into the complex external wall. If I select the column, we can see it's the 12 by 12 inch concrete rectangular column type. This has been positioned so that it's recessed into the external wall in line with the CMU layer, with the external finishes continuing past the column, and we would like the internal finishes to encase the column. However, at the moment they run through the column, which makes it appear as if they stop either side of the column. So we'll use an architectural column joined to the wall to extend these finishes around the column. And as we've seen, the concrete column is 12 by 12 inches. The finishes for this wall are 3 inches thick, so therefore we will need 6 inches bigger than that to allow for the finishes on both sides. So let's go to the Architecture ribbon tab, and from the Build panel, under the Structural Column tool, we'll choose to place an architectural column. Looking at the type selector, we have the 24 by 24 inch column, so we'll choose the 18 by 18 inch type, and now we can place this by just snapping to the center of the column or the intersection of the grid lines here, and straight away we can see that it inherits the finishes of that external wall, and they're now extended around the outside of the column to give us the encasing detail that we want. So next I'll choose Zoom to Fit from the navigation bar so we can see the whole plan again. And now zooming into the middle of the area where the partitions are, we can see that we have some steel columns placed, and ideally we would like the partition finishes to encase those columns. So once again, we'll go to the Architecture ribbon tab. From the Build panel under Column, we'll choose the architectural column. We've got the 18 by 18 inch column selected, so we'll click to place that in the middle of the column here. And again we can see those finishes be inherited by the column and follow around the outside. However, they are a little bit big, so let's select the column, and then from the Properties palette we'll choose Edit Type to access its type properties. We'll then click Duplicate to create a new version, and we'll name this 16 inch by 16 inch. Then click OK to accept that new name and create the new column. And we can see we have the parameters here for depth and width, so we'll change each of these to be 16 inches. And then we'll click OK, and we can see that new column type applied to the one that we already had placed, and the finishes are now closer to the column as we want for this detail. So now we can just copy this architectural column across to the next. So with it selected, from the Modify Columns ribbon, we'll choose the Copy tool, and then we can snap from the middle of the steel column to the middle of the next steel column, and again as soon as it's placed we can see those finishes be inherited once more. And now zooming out a little, we can see we have this masonry wall which spans the entire width of the building. And although it does have a pillar in the middle of it, we do need to add one more either side of this to strengthen it and make it structurally more stable. So once again, from the Architecture tab we'll choose to place the architectural column, and this time we'll choose the 18 by 24 inch one. And now as we go over the wall we can use the spacebar to change its orientation. We could place it aligned to the edge of the wall so that it was thicker on just one side, but we'll place it centrally, and then we can see that it inherits that masonry material and extends out to give us the pillar in the middle of the wall. So now we just need to make it central along the length of that wall. So we'll go to the Annotate ribbon tab, From the dimension panel, we'll choose the Align Dimension tool. And first we'll select the center of the column we've just placed. So then we'll select the grid line in the middle, and then the grid line above or the center of the column. And then once we have those, we can click to place the dimensions down. And now we'll click the equality toggle for these dimensions. And this will set them to be equal, which in turn will mean that the column will be equally spaced between the middle grid line and the upper grid line that we selected for the dimensions. So now we just need to copy this column down to the wall below. So we'll select it first, and then from the Modify Columns ribbon tab, we'll choose the Mirror Pick Axis tool, and then we just need to click on the middle grid line, and then the column will be mirrored into position on the wall below. So finally, we'll just delete the dimensions that we created, as we don't need those in the plan. So we'll select those, and then from the Modify ribbon tab, we'll just choose the Delete tool, and we'll be given a warning that we cannot ignore. And this tells us that the dimension had the equality constraint toggled on. And if we delete the dimension, the equality constraint will remain if we choose OK. So let's click Unconstrain to remove the constraint from the column.